All right, I have a MEP 831 Alpha, and this video is going to be on the aftermarket governor controller right here. I have some old videos that I went over on how to properly adjust this, so I'm not going to go over the adjustment procedure particularly on that, but what I do want to show is a couple of the symptoms, which I'll go over before I talk about installing the aftermarket controller. This particular unit right here, I went through the procedures a couple of times on this unit and it didn't seem to help. Like, I would get it where it needed to be, shut it down, and immediately when I started it back up, it was like nothing took effect. So something inside that controller is bad. Everything's hooked up. I got the ground doubled up with the one on the other generator there I'm working. So while I'm giving that the second to warm up, the heaters that I usually use for a load bank, I'm going to use a 3000 watt one, which is the maximum that generator can pull, to show the examples to try to make it give the error. What I'm going to do is close the contactor, and then what it should do is smoothly ramp up, and it will kind of do that. But then after it runs under load, sometimes it would start to stutter, sometimes it wouldn't. But then where you'd really start to see the problem with this one is when you shut the load off. It would kind of jump all over and it wouldn't ramp down. And then the typical problem, which happens with a lot of these, is when you go to actually shut it off, it won't actually shut all the way off. See, so it should be ramping up higher RPM than that, so you can already see that it's off a little bit. It should spike up higher than that. That's the reason why it's making so much smoke. See what happens right away after you take the load off, if it'll stutter. See, now the load isn't coming back down. See, now the engine RPM is coming up high like it should have. See how it's stuttering on its own? So, take the load off. See, now I took the load off and it's like it doesn't know what to do with itself. Open the contactor. And it did actually shut itself off, but the couple of times I was messing with this like that too, sometimes it wouldn't shut itself off. It would do the typical problem where it kept running. It can do all kinds of weird things similar to that example that I just showed you. So that's the reason why you'd want to go after one of these aftermarket controllers, because all the things that I show where you have to mess with all the potentiometers, as long as the physical governor is all adjusted properly, this new controller works perfectly and it does all that for you. All right, so this is the kit exactly as it's shipped. Comes with little stickers to label your wires. This is just other things that he offers for sale, which he has a whole bunch of great stuff for both this generator and other military generators. But this is the install instructions, which is basically what I'm going to go over in the video. And then he wraps it up nicely inside bubble wrap. Comes in a static proof Ziploc bag. And it's fully coated, so that way there'll be no shorts if it gets moist, though I wouldn't spray it directly with water while it's running. And then they're all labeled, and you just follow the instructions, but you can follow along with my video and see how to install it. It's pretty simple. Let's do it. So the only thing you really need to do to prep to install is on your battery, if you have one in there, disconnect the negative side, because there is always some voltage in this control panel even when it's not running. So you want to do that, and then cut the little flags that were provided, the stickers for the wire, and one at a time you want to label them. And you can see on E there's actually two of them stacked up. You want those to go back in the proper order. So the one that's on top, you want it to go on top. You don't want it to go on the bottom. Otherwise, it's pretty simple. attach everything the way that it was. Don't over tighten things, but make sure they're snug. All right, finished putting the controller in, and everything's labeled good, tight, the way that it should be. So the step after that is coming in here and double checking your actuator. The quick thing that you need to do, the first, is you'll need a 1/2 inch and a 7/16 for this part. Is on the bottom where your little spherical nut is, you want to loosen the top one and the bottom one and adjust it so you have one thread coming off the bottom. It's going to be hard to see, but it's obvious when you're looking at it. Then if you need to, a lot of this doesn't need to be adjusted on mine because I was already messing with it, but I'm just showing you the procedure. Then when this gets to the stop, you want it to be just before there. If it's not, you want to loosen the jam nut out here and just adjust this a little bit. You can see how I barely have any play from where it's a stop. So then the last thing that you're going to want to do when you start it and you idle it, have this open, and it's going to adjust. And the gap between these two pieces right here, the magnet, that's actually what controls this, if you didn't know that already. You're going to want to measure 5/16. If you got way too big of a gap, like 3/4 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch, if it's any less than like 1/4 of an inch, it's just going to shut itself down. But then you're going to want to come back and make an adjustment with this bottom nut. You could do it from the top, it really doesn't matter, but you want to make an adjustment so while it's sitting at idle, you have 5/16 here, or pretty close. Using a dial caliper with the internal jaws is going to be the best way to do that. Not the easiest thing to do, it's annoying, but you only need to do it once. This top jam nut for the top up here is 3/8, and mine was being a little stubborn, so just using some channel locks to hold the rod so it doesn't rotate is helpful. Tightening the jam nut back up here. So everything's tight. I'll double check it one more time. Now we made the governor adjustment. Everything's still pretty warm from when I ran it before. So now see how that just after 1 or 2 seconds it ramped right up to where it needed to go? Still stuttered a little bit, but even though it's fluttering a little bit, you can still see how it came down. That could be something else going on with this particular generator. I noticed when I got it, it had like a ton of oil and stuff on the inside. So what I might actually need to do is just clean off between those magnets. Between those magnets is really important for it to work, and I also might need to just tweak a little bit as well with the adjustment of the throttle and stuff like that. And one thing I didn't even think of to check on this is the actual area where like the fuel shutoff nut is. None of that should be tampered with. That can throw it all off, but I cover that in the old video about adjusting the governor. So if something with yours is tampered with on that, that's outside the purview of what I wanted to show in this video. Do not mess with the magnet, like twisting the magnet or adjusting anything in the actuator at all. That's all factory adjusted stuff. Way beyond this. If you're smarter than me, then go ahead and adjust it, but that stuff should be fine. If there's a problem with that, that's kind of well beyond what this should be. I'm gonna go ahead and do my 6-hour load test on this generator now. It's doing way better than what it did. That fluttering has nothing to do with the controls. Just wanted to record this quickly. This is after the 6-hour load test. That flutter went away. It idles down nice and smoothly. Anyway, hopefully this was helpful. Kurt makes a great product. He makes great other products for the generators too. There's a link down in the description to this particular product on his eBay store. He's like me, that's where he sells. You can also reach out directly to him on there for anything else. And then I'll also put a link to his whole eBay store. So you look at other stuff, like if you have a MEP 802 alpha or 803 alpha or MEP 1040 or 30, he makes all kinds of really cool controllers and other fixes for the MEP 831 alpha, like the battery charger conversion kits for these, which I might do a video on in the future. But anyway, hopefully it was helpful. Not the most exciting video, but thanks for watching.